What's up, guys? I'm Sarah here with Christian and Zack. Today we're going to be talking about UCF's first game against UConn last week and their upcoming game this weekend against South Carolina State. You guys ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right, so first of all, what are your just general thoughts on last week? And maybe besides Milton, who kind of stood out to you in the game?
Zack?
Well, obviously Trey Nixon. He came in and didn't necessarily take Traquan's place, but he's the big play receiver that they lost. And also, they have a lot of running backs, which is super cool now.
That's definitely cool.
That can do a lot of good things. Otis didn't get a ton of touches, but he still got 2 touchdowns in the few touches he got, which is encouraging. And it seems they're going to use Taj McGowan more, which is nice. They have like a power back this year. So, offense looked good.
Yeah.
Better than I expected.
That was kind of my takeaway, because I know we were all, even if we hadn't so much said, I think everyone was expecting a little bit of a drop-off, not necessarily like a permanent one, but just you have an entire new coaching staff, so something. But I mean, they looked almost identical last year. If anything, they were just playing a lot faster and in ways looked better.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it looked better than last year. I mean, they scored a lot, way faster than last year, and it was like they averaged 2.5 points per minute.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And truth be told, they could have run out the score a lot more if they wanted to.
I think
they threw in the flag earlier than they had to.
Right, and then
Right.
And then Matt came in only threw 2 passes. He was like 2
had that touchdown run though.
I mean, yeah, but it's like once they pulled the stars, they didn't really do much else.
Yeah, they really didn't.
Outside.
What did they have in the fourth quarter? What did they?
I don't think, and I mean, I don't know. And even with the Mac touchdown run, do you think they were even expecting to score on that? I think that was just.
I don't think so.
Right, that was just.
I don't think you ever designed an 80-yard.
Right, by a quarterback. That was just a great play making a great play, you know.
No, it was. That absolutely was. But yeah, I mean, offense looked great. I mean, like you said, Trey Nixon. I think because. I mean, he's a guy who just from practice, I think we knew that he was going to have a big impact, but I think a lot of people look to Snelson as the guy to fill in for Traquan's shoes. And obviously it's way too early to decree, okay, Trey Nixon's the go-to guy or Snelson, but I mean, Trey looked like definitely, I think, a larger part of the offense than most fans were expecting for him to be that immediately.
Right, I mean, his play type is more similar to Traquan's than he gets on the field.
Absolutely.
He's got a large catching radius, so I mean, if you're going to look for a guy if you want to pick a guy that's going to replace Traquan, which is just not doable, you probably pick him. But
Gabe Davis had a better performance than I was expecting.
I mean, he played well as a freshman, and he had a couple great catches in the end zone that weren't catches technically, but still showed that he can catch the ball. Probably some of the best hands in the team. So.
Absolutely. That catch that ended up being ruled not a catch, though, when he was able to bobble it back.
Yeah,
man, that was, I mean, I know his foot was on the line, but either way, just the talent to be able to do that.
Concentration.
Absolutely.
What's maybe an improvement you guys could have seen on both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively? I know.
Let's just talk about one side of the ball.
Yeah,
because offense was fine.
I find it kind of hard to pick that.
Yeah, I mean, 56 points?
Yeah, essentially 3 quarters. It's kind of hard to nitpick.
I think you're okay. Yeah, defense though, we can nitpick the defense.
Well, yeah, a little bit of nitpick, but yeah, it's stupid. Well, they couldn't tackle very well. I don't know if it's just like week 1, like it's hard to just come out and like play live like that, you know. But also, Pindell, he gave him trouble last year too, so it's not like this was like a shock that guy came out and played
well. I feel like it's just this ongoing thing from last year where they just don't know how to deal with dual threat quarterbacks.
And it's not really they don't know how to deal with them, it's literally they just can't tackle them.
Yeah.
Because like they had Pindell behind the line a lot, and he just escaped, like he ducked under sacks, and he was like greased up or something because they just couldn't grab him. It was crazy.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's not like, I mean, because a lot of the emphasis, especially after the game, was, the defense, fans were like, we're worried about the defense, whatever. It's, at the end of the day, they still held UConn to 17 points.
Right.
They forced multiple turnovers. They did not have a bad game. It's just, especially in the first half, there was a lot of worrying plays, especially with tackling, where it's like, okay. I mean, you know.
And the thing is, too, is they bent and they didn't break, though. It's like they let them get down there, and especially when the drives didn't look so great, they didn't break. They would either force a turnover, force a field goal, force a missed field goal. They never really let them, control the other team's offense.
Which was a philosophy they lived a lot on in the Frost days, too.
Well, I mean, that's what you have to do. I mean, your team's going to score 48 points a game last year, and they scored 56 already this season. It's like that's kind of all your defense can do.
I mean, are we at the point where, is there anyone on UCF's schedule that could realistically hold them to less than 30 points this year? Realistically. Obviously, things happen.
After week 1 and how the American looked, no.
Yeah,
but it also is week 1, and you never know what's going to happen.
But as a defense, even when you have issues like that with tackling, if you can go into a game and essentially you hold them to less than 30 and you'll win the game,
Right, I know like in UCF's case, they don't want to look ahead too far, but like in the bigger picture, UCF, they obviously have bigger aspirations and expectations.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you really want to look at it like, well, no one on our schedule is going to stop us from scoring 30. You kind of look at it like, well, could the best teams, the best teams we want to compare ourselves to hold us to less than 30.
Which is why, and to be honest, it's why I'm surprised that they didn't run up the scoreboard when they did against UConn, because they could have hit 60 if they wanted to. They could have, and I know that that's not really necessarily a healthy thing to push your team to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is a year where they're looking at a weaker schedule than they had last year as of right now, and this is a year where, even if they don't want to say it, they're obviously gunning for a New Year's Six spot or higher even, and you're going to need, especially a year where Boise State could also end up being really good. You need to look good in every game you play.
Exactly. Even if it does make it look kind of unsportsmanlike, you got to just run up the score just to show that.
Because truth be told, how many AP voters are actually looking at the sportsmanship in the fourth quarter of the game? There's 80 games on every weekend. They're looking at the final score and they're moving on.
Right. I mean, Ohio State wins 77-31.
Exactly.
People aren't saying, "Oh my God, the score."
No one's talking about Ohio State's defense in that game. Oregon State scored 31 points, which is scored 77. No, I get it, but I'm just saying there is this double standard thing, and even Michigan State and Penn State both had close games they almost lost, and they got every benefit of every doubt. When you're a Power 5, you get that benefit. When you're Group of 5, you don't. They don't have room for error. If that was a closer than expected game with UConn,
right, they would have dropped.
They would have dropped. But I mean, they did exactly what they needed to do, and they moved up.
So speaking of other teams and in rankings, AP rankings, UCF fell in at 19 this week. And what are your guys' thoughts on that? Should they be higher? Should they be okay with being there right now? Or what do you have to say about any of that?
I'm okay with it.
I'm fine with it.
I mean, I honestly expect them to drop, just because you had LSU win, you had Boise State who looked good, and so I was expecting those two teams to jump UCF and them stay about where they were. But I mean, moving up 2 spots still ahead of Boise State, which is kind of where you need to be at this point. I mean, because right now it seems like it's just a race with Boise State, and last year was the race with like San Diego State, and that just sort of fell apart towards the end. So I mean, initially it seems like a race with Boise State, especially with all the hype they've been getting. So
my whole thing at this point is, because I know a lot of fans are just being continuously kind of upset with the ranking, which is understandable because I think a lot of fans felt they should have retired to start the year.
I mean,
but
they probably should have been.
They probably should have been. I think so too. But at the end of the day, after 1 week of games have been played, they're the highest ranked Group of 5 team. They're the highest ranked team in Florida. I mean, this time last year they were weeks away from even getting into the polls.
Mm-hmm.
So I think UCF should be absolutely happy where they are. I'm a little worried for them about Boise State, not even because of whether Boise State can go undefeated or not, but just because already it seems like the tide is turning. Most national media are projecting, who's your Group of 5 team this year? Everyone's saying Boise State. And that's really because they got the win against Troy, which is coming off 11 wins, and UCF played UConn. I was thinking it hurt UCF to play on Thursday, too, because I think they were kind of largely
I forget about that on Saturday. It's like you get the hype of...
I mean, obviously, we remember it because we're here, but by the time, the Group of 5 headlines from this weekend were FAU getting killed,
right,
and Boise State getting a big win over Troy, so...
And then somewhere in the back is UCF winning by 30 again.
Yeah, I mean, UCF, I think this weekend will help them because I think they could, not necessarily expecting, but they could put up 70 on this team if they wanted to.
Right. I mean, I know what the game's on ESPN3. That's not like a prime.
But either way, anytime a team scores 70 points, that shows up in people's feeds.
Right. So I mean, especially with a team like UCF who's been scoring a lot of points, it's like.
And Boise State is playing UConn this weekend,
which is a good barometer, like a comparison.
Especially just a week apart. I mean, it's about as close to a head-to-head comparison.
UConn has to travel to them though.
That's the thing. Yeah, they have to go to Boise, which is.
So it does make a difference, but either way, I still think that's about as close to a head-to-head comparison as you can get.
I mean, yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. I think it benefits UCF more than Boise State at this point, just because Boise State, I'm not saying, I totally expect them to destroy UConn similar to the fashion UCF did, but if the pressure's kind of them, because if they don't, I mean, people are going to notice that. It's a week apart.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, I just want to see, the thing I'm most interested in is how Boise State deals with Pendel.
Yeah.
Like, is he actually, is he really, make that big of a jump from this year last year? Because, I mean, Pendel looked good, he looked great, I mean, he had some ill-advised throws, but
his throwing was okay, but
he overall looked really, 120 rushing yards, 150.
He looked significantly better than the player we saw last year.
Right, so it's like he looked really good. I just want to see if UCF's lack of tackling or whatever you want to call it made him look like that, or if he actually is that good. Because I mean, he looked good.
Definitely.
Would you guys see that maybe surprised you with certain teams this week? And I know Florida State struggled, Michigan struggled. What you guys think
Yeah, those
about
are
that?
crazy, but also the American just completely falling apart as a conference was pretty interesting.
That was
to watch.
disappointing.
Yeah, that was wow.
But the thing is a lot of the FCS teams they played were ranked FCS teams. So I'm just saying, but I mean, is there really that big of a jump from the bottom of the FBS to the top of the FCS?
Yes.
I don't.
There's maybe 2 FCS programs that are at that level. The rest are not. I mean,
but I mean, you look at a team like ECU who hasn't been doing so great. They had a new quarterback coming into this year. They lost some players last year, and they're playing a ranked. I think it was North Carolina A&T they played.
I think it was that one. I can understand because that team specifically has a history of knocking off FBS opponents. I don't understand Temple and Villanova at all, especially the season where some Temple fans were expecting like an 8 or 9 or even 10-win season. I don't understand how that happened.
With that, I think it's like a rivalry thing. It's like the Mayor's Cup or something, and I think I don't know, have as a rivalry, play up to the other team. I don't know.
Wow, an FCS team playing up to an FBS team, that's pretty...
I mean,
and arguably the best Group of 5 conference, or at least going into this weekend it was.
I mean, is Temple as good as everyone or their fans thought they were going to be?
I don't know. But it wasn't even just the FCS. I mean, the SMU got completely demolished by a Conference USA team. Navy lost to a Mountain West team. I mean, across the board, it was... The only sort of bright points were the same 3 teams that ran the conference last year. So Memphis looked about the same, which again, it's an FCS opponent, so it's hard to tell, but they did what they were supposed to do.
So 70.
Yeah, USF, the final score wasn't super great, but they gave up in that game pretty early on.
I mean, also the quarterback looked serviceable.
Yeah, he looked fine, and UCF obviously. So it's like, listen, as far as strength of scheduling, if UCF goes to the season and USF and Memphis are at or near where they were last year, UCF will be fine because that's really all they had last year anyway. I mean, the American didn't have any good teams outside of that. So
I guess you just got to, I mean, at the end of the season, retroactively hope that Pitt and that UNC were good teams.
But it's also, what's good about that is we are getting a lot of, for UCF, there's a lot of head-to-head comparisons because UNC is going to be playing FSU and Miami, and which both, looked off this weekend, but whatever, you never know. And I think one of them's playing Penn State, I think, at some point this year.
Pitt is.
Is Pitt playing Penn State? Yeah, so I mean, there's going to be, against teams we know are going to be around the top, there will be head-to-head comparisons, which obviously it's like, is the committee or whoever going to really put that much stock into it? No, but it is at least some sort of barometer that UCF can use as ammunition when the time comes for that type of stuff to get discussed. Because, I mean, listen, I think when you look at Memphis' schedule, they realistically could go 11-1. I mean, or 12-0. I mean, they're a team that could absolutely beat UCF. UCF has to go there on the road, and they didn't look that different from last year. Obviously, they have a new quarterback, but assuming they're on that similar level, I mean, I don't know. That could be ranked matchup. So could USF. So it could be whoever they play in the conference championship game if they get there.
I mean, I think it's all with Memphis specifically. I think it's all going to. They still did return their 2 top running backs, most of their offensive line. So it's like, I mean, they're not. It's not like anyone expected them to come out and look bad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but still, what was it, like 56 points in the first half or something? I mean, those are impressive numbers.
I mean, but Wagner's not like a great FCS team. So I mean, he's got.
But either way,
right? I mean, putting up 56 is
regardless of the opponent. If you're putting up 56 and a half, you've got a pretty good offense.
I mean, I just want to see how they do against another FBS team, and then like, I mean, Houston did look good. So I mean, they started out, but in the second half they really took control of the game, and Oliver was dominant in that game.
And if UCF does make it to the conference championship game, which like cautiously saying at this point, barring injuries, I don't really know how that doesn't happen.
I mean, USF, I guess the only team that really.
I guess if they lost to Memphis and USF, yeah, I guess they'd have to lose to both of them probably.
Right, because I mean,
or a similar situation last year where USF has one conference loss and they come into an undefeated UCF, and if they get the win this time. But
which I guess could happen because of how the bottom of the American looks, but also, I don't know how good USF is either. So.
Yeah, it's just another one of those things we'll have to see.
So last week we saw Richie Grant kind of have a breakout game, first start, fumble recovery, interception. Who do you guys think anyone else is going to have a breakout game in the weeks to come, next week, and if so, who do you think it is?
Zack?
I don't know if there's a specific player, but I think we're going to see a lot of good things from all the running backs. I mean, you saw Taj McGowan looked, and he didn't get a ton of touches, and I think that's one of the issues is that all the running backs are so talented. And they're all not going to get a bunch of touches to show what they can do. But I mean, the few that we've seen Todd McGowan, he took a guy's helmet off. Otis had 2 touchdowns. McCray looked good. Killens looked
touchdown too.
Yeah, so it's like all these guys look good, and I think that if they keep playing them all, and because they all have a very specific skill set. I mean, Killens is obviously the fast guy. McGowan's got power. Otis is, he plays receiver and he can catch, play running back. So it's like I think you're going to see a lot from them. And I just like to see like the 2 top ones get more touches, but I think that if they keep giving them all the ball, you're going to see a lot of good things from them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of going to stretch the definition of what breakout means, I guess, a little bit here, but I'm going to say Snelson, and not because of, obviously it's weird to say a guy who's supposed to be your top receiver could have a breakout game, but he didn't get on the board with a touchdown in the first game, even though he still had a lot of yards, and he didn't play the best game he could have, and I think already, especially from a fan's perspective, it was a lot of, okay, Trey Nixon, he's the guy, so I think if Snelson comes out and has, which he should, a few touchdown scores or a lot of yards, I think that in a way could count as a breakout game for him, just sort of picking up where he left off last year.
It also helped, too, that Trey Nixon came out so hot because now teams are, I mean, I don't know, never been a coach, but I don't know, yeah, I know, shocking.
It's really just...
Yeah, I know, little wacko didn't play football, it's crazy. But it's, Trey Nixon having that big game probably is going to draw a lot of coaches' attention and probably a lot of players' attention, so it's probably takes some focus off Snelson. And also, Snelson had some plays where he could have scored, he could have gotten more yards.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like it's not like he.
But it is the type of thing, like you said, it's good to have. You don't ever want to have an offense where the defense can key in on one receiver and really shut down your receiving game. I mean, having multiple guys they're gonna have to pay attention to. I mean, they had 3 guys against UConn where it's each one of them you just couldn't leave alone.
Right. I mean, if you want to count Otis, that's 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't
He had
any alone.
I mean, they didn't throw to him very many times, but he was really efficient. So.
Right, and then but even he's still a threat if you leave him alone, and he's going to be something happen. McCray had like a 30-yard touchdown, 40-yard touchdown, whatever it was. I mean, it's like.
And I think that's the point where it's why anyone who was worried about the offense before the season started really shouldn't be, because regardless of who your coach is, when you just have that many weapons across the board, it's not like they have one group that's really talented. It's just across the board, just a really good offense. And we haven't really talked enough about Milton and that he basically jump-started his Heisman campaign in the best way possible.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, his odds were almost.
I think they went from 50-1 to 12-1.
So I mean,
after one game.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a lot of the the experts' top 5 right now after week 1.
Well, this thing is like, and I guess it was just personally like, to me it was the reality of being UCF, and when they really got started on the Heisman campaign, I was kind of like, okay, that's cool. We've seen it with Kevin Smith. We've seen it with Dante Culpepper. It doesn't ever really go anywhere. But this year it took one game against UConn of all teams for everyone to say, oh no, like nationally, like Milton's being talked about as a Heisman candidate. And after one game, for that to be the case, that's really, really good.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that this is the first time I think they've really made noise as a program to try to.
Yeah, and also the first time that they've had a guy who was great for them and got national headlines and then came back. I mean, Blake left after the festival. I mean, they've got 2 more years of Milton. I mean, that's a lot to work with, and I think we're kind of seeing that right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is he's got so many weapons, so I just don't see how he doesn't keep this up.
I don't either. I don't know how he...
If he stays healthy, I think his chances are just going to keep increasing.
Absolutely.
I mean, because I don't think... winning, it's never like a great expectation to have, just because like there's so many good players in college football, but like finalist, maybe?
If he ends up as a finalist, that's
huge.
A monumental win for UCF. I mean, really, just because... I mean, how many Group of 5 programs have really done that ever?
I have no idea. Not a historian. I'm not a Group of 5 historian, but I can't imagine.
I mean, you don't have to be a historian to know it's not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be that many.
No, and it's just another one of those things that, because what UCF's really been doing, even with the winless season, what they've been doing for the better part of a decade now is just distancing themselves from the rest of the Group of 5 more and more as one of its premier teams. I mean, when people talk about 5 years ago, when people talk about who's the best Group of 5 team, the answer is Boise State.
Yeah.
And there's no one else in that conversation. And now it's everywhere you go, every website you check on best Group of 5 teams. Is it UCF? Is it Boise State? It's just amazing in such a short amount of time when Boise State had 15 years of success that they've just put themselves right there. I mean, 2 New Year's Six wins in the last 5 years.
Right. I mean, the article's all who's this year's UCF, not who's this year's Boise State.
And it hasn't been who's this year's Boise State in a long time. Even Boise State's last New Year's winning season, which obviously is a huge accomplishment. I think they finished the year ranked something like 16th. They had 2 losses that year. I mean, UCF's on the verge of doing something that very few teams have done ever. I mean, going undefeated and then going close to undefeated the next season is something that just very few teams do.
That's also the way they do it, though. I mean, if you go, I mean, like a good example is like the UCF team that won the Fiesta Bowl. They lost one game, obviously, but they won a lot of games that were close. Mm-hmm. And last year's UCF team won most games by double digits.
They essentially
and that just draws people's attention.
Well, the Fiesta Bowl team was an interesting team too, because at that point, I mean, we talk about the lack of respect for Group 5 conferences. Nothing compared to what the American was going through at that point in time. They just collapsed as a conference as the Big East 4. I mean, literally, that conference was treated as a joke. I mean, going into that season, there's Louisville who's going to murder that conference before they move to the ACC, and then no one else matters. So even after UCF beat Louisville, the storyline changed to, well, Louisville wasn't as good as we expected, instead of UCF's a really good team. And it really, not until they beat Auburn did they really get recognition that year. As far as UCF in 2017, they just couldn't be ignored because they were just killing everyone.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't even close, game after game after game.
Right, and it's also the way they play too. I mean, the way they play is so much fun. You can't even if you don't even if you don't like UCF, you're going to tune in to watch them score 50.
Crazy highlights, yeah.
So, like you guys were saying,
uniforms.
UCF in the past year especially has attracted a lot of attention, especially on social media. Lots of fans chime in, put their opinion. Lots of people that aren't particularly fans of UCF chime in. I think a lot of people saw on Twitter during the first game that a lot of fans were concerned with the way plays were run, with the things players were doing, how the coaches allowed certain freedoms to certain players. Do you think that some of the UCF fans were maybe worried about too much that maybe in the end was just something little?
I gotta say something really quickly. Okay, guys, UCF fans, you gotta chill. You gotta calm down. It's gonna be fine. They're a good team. I get when you're watching a game and you've been waiting a really long time, there's a lot of things you're waiting for, a lot of expectations, but like Twitter was insane that game. I mean, literally it was Milton runs with the ball and the tweets are, why is he running with the ball? He shouldn't be doing that, he can get hurt. And then 2 plays later, Killen scores a touchdown and all the tweets are, well, why wasn't that touchdown for Milton? How does that help his Heisman campaign if our running backs are scoring the running touchdowns? I mean, I get play to play, there's going to be a lot of variation, you're just really excited for the season, but like, I'm pretty sure like Heupel and the staff know what they're doing, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to intentionally hurt Milton. I think they know what he can handle, and let's just collectively take a sigh of relief and just enjoy that the team's really good and just go from there and have a great season.
Encouraging.
Yeah.
Positivity, I love it. Yeah, I mean, I can't really criticize any of the coaches' moves because, once again, not a coach.
Not a coach.
Not a great athlete. So.
Neither are any of you.
Right. Well,
some of you might be, and if you are, that's awesome.
Right.
But still, most of you are not.
Right. And so, I mean, I'm not going to criticize anything they're doing when they're winning by 40. And,
yeah.
I mean, from what we've seen most of the offseason, this team looks like they're cool with each other. So. It's
I mean,
like,
listen, the whole Milton running thing. Listen, if Milton was taking like body blows and like slow to get up, and then they keep doing it, it's like okay, but it's like I didn't even sense like any concern in that. I mean, he got hit a couple times. All of them were pretty light tackles because he was going down already anyway.
Right. I mean, he doesn't get sacked ever.
Plus, he's bigger than he was last year. He looks taller than he was last year.
Right.
I think, and it's just the whole thing is they've been working with him for months now. They know what he can take. I mean, they're not going to put him in a situation where.
Well, he knows what he can take too. Because the thing is, once again, he's not a huge person, so it's like it's not like his whole life he's been looking to take these huge hits. Like his whole life he's probably been looking to avoid hits. Cause
when you're trying to make it even to FBS because he was what, a 2-star recruit, and you're a 5'9", 5'10" quarterback, you're not trying to truck players.
You're not lowering your head looking to take helmets off. You're
exactly
just not get you get hit hard, break a rib.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't buy this notion that the coaching staff is using him too much, or I think they know what I also don't buy the idea that they need to be running plays for him exclusively. Like when they get in the red zone, I'm all for the Heisman campaign. I think it's a great idea, but really saying, all right, we're going to take away touchdowns or plays that could work for our running backs because we're going to push them to Milton to try to bump up the Heisman campaign. Just try to win the games.
Because that can also come back and bite you.
In a huge way, absolutely.
I mean, because if you force it, because also if you start forcing things, teams are going to obviously figure that out, and then.
That's the thing. If every time they end up in the red zone, the team knows, oh, this is going to be for Milton. That's when you have to start getting hits that you're going to worry about. I mean, that's where that type of stuff starts happening.
So I mean, I think it's whatever they're doing works.
Yeah.
And also, it's not like Milton's the only player that can score. It's like if you take the ball out of the hands of Killens or Otis or Gabe Davis or Jay Nixon, it's like you're taking the ball out of some.
It's hurting the team.
Hands. Yeah.
It's hurting the team. I mean, the reason. I mean, you don't get to score 48 points per game as an offense by being like a one-note offense. I mean, you need to have a little bit of everything. You need to be able to have options. So when one thing's not working, you go to something else. And trying to make your offense one note for a Heisman campaign, I don't understand why you.
And to a certain extent, that's sort of what USF did last year at the beginning of the year. They kept trying
absolutely.
to do
I mean, people were commenting on that. They were, and they blew plays in their first couple games
because they're trying to because Quinn Flowers was a Heisman dark horse, and it's like but also it's like I USF had some good players on their offense. Mm-hmm. They had with Dearness Johnson and
Tyler
McCants, and then Scaldus Valding Scantless. I don't know his name, but I know it's hyphenated. And he was good and got drafted.
Nice.
And it's like when you're taking the ball out of those players' hands, it's going to hurt. And I'm glad UCF's not doing that. Because, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Definitely. I think the other thing is that UCF fans who've been around for 2 years or 20 years, this is pretty much the first time ever they've gone into a season with anything beyond fairly moderate expectations. And I think it's still just as a fan base and as an organization trying to figure out how that works. Because teams handle it different ways. LSU, it's you going to every year and we're going to win 12 games, and if we don't, let's fire the coach. Or it's just like, different approaches. And I think UCF and their fans and the organization are still trying to figure out where they fit in that. Because this really is the first year ever that this is something that they have expectations going into a season like this.
So, speaking of expectations, what are your expectations for next week? Who do you think maybe? Well, we already kind of talked about who we thought was going to have a breakout game, but what do you think we're going to see if we see anything differently? And what's your score prediction?
Well, I would like to see them run up the score this week. That's what I want to see them do differently because I want to see the scoring record. I think that'd be super cool.
Break it 2 years in a row. Broke it against the FCS team last year.
Exactly. So
73 right now, yeah.
And,
it's a lot of points.
If you put up 56 against UConn, you could probably put up...
Plus, I forget who... SC State played an FBS team this past week, and it was a group of 5 team, and they lost by like 20 or 30, I want to say. So...
I thought they played their FCS team.
No, they played an FBS team.
Did they? I don't know. I know they got crushed, so... Yeah. If they got crushed by them, I can't imagine what UCF's going to do. And so, I know it's not, cool to, beat up on smaller schools, but,
That's kind of cool.
I think it's pretty
kinda
cool.
cool,
So
yeah,
I'm
no,
just
South
gonna do
Carolina
it.
State lost 6-37 to Georgia Southern
Yeah.
last weekend.
And Georgia Southern's Sun Belt team.
Sure.
You want to check that one too, sir?
Let's go with it.
Pretty
No,
sure Georgia Southern's a
it's
Sun
a
Belt
fact
team.
it's Sun Belt team. We yeah.
So if they're allowing a Sun Belt team to score 37 points, then UCF should be able to just score at will.
And the other thing I'd like to see too is when the backups come in, because I'm assuming they will at some point. I want to see them like throw the ball more, because I know last year with Vedral he didn't throw the ball, and against UConn, Mac ran the ball a lot.
So
He was 2 for 2 on passing.
So smart.
Yeah, you're so good at guessing conferences.
I am.
I just want to see him throw the ball open, like actually open up the offense.
Because that was, I mean, Vedral didn't, and again, this is a new coaching staff, so we don't know how
Right.
to handle that. And again, we can talk about how their goal is to win every game, and obviously that's important, and that's what it should be.
Mhm.
But also, like, I once they have the backups, and I think they will try to run up the score. I mean, if they could realistically be coming out of halftime with their backups, and if at that point, why are you going to run the ball for 2 quarters?
Or I guess not even run the score, but just don't cut off the playbook for the backups. Like,
No,
let
exactly.
them run all the plays, because
And there's something to be said that you don't want to like give away plays or like use up your plays in a
You don't have to,
situation
but just
like that. Yeah, it's
don't make everything a read option.
You
Like
can-
a
yeah,
slant
exactly.
route.
It's like you can throw the ball. Yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
not that it's not that crazy of a concept. Especially, I think all fans, and I think it'd be good for Dario Mack to get some experience. Especially even we're talking about how deep you can go with the new redshirt rule. I mean, could Quadri see some time on the field this year? I mean, we don't know.
That'd be valuable. I mean,
Yeah.
especially for a kid who, I mean, he's probably gonna. I mean, he's not gonna see the field maybe for a few years.
But still, if he can see it for at least a couple
Right,
of games
I mean-
now or next year, whenever, it's just that those are things that you can start at least considering now.
Right, because he's not gonna come in for at least until Milton.
And that's the benefit of being a good team, is there are teams that don't have that luxury, that they're not
Mhm.
going to play games where they're up by so much. They can just experiment with guys who are young. I mean, that's
Mhm.
something that specifically UCF and other teams that are really good can do.
So, score prediction for each of you to wrap things up.
I have mine.
I don't want to be too cocky with this.
Yeah, I'm a little.
I'm just gonna say, what is the scoring record?
73.
I'm gonna say, what's the next even football number of 73? 76. 76.
To what?
76 to 14. I'm gonna speak it into existence. I want to see the scoring record.
I'm going to say 66-6. Oh, wait.
Oh,
No, I'm
my
not.
goodness.
No, I'm not. I'm going to say 66-13.
I just want to see. I'm just gonna be LeVar Ball and speak it into existence. It's gonna happen. They're gonna go for the scoring record.
Did he speak Leangelo into the league? I don't think he did.
He spoke Lonzo on as the number 2 pick. So
Yeah, but he kind of. All right, let's not get on that.
Alrighty,
Right.
that's all we have time for
Wait,
today.
I have one more thing to say. UCF, stop wearing the alternate uniforms. They're not as good as the normal uniforms. Just wear the Pegasus sleeve uniforms. Please. From me and all the fans. Stop. Okay.
Or
Keep
maybe
easy.
just for you, but
Maybe just for me. But you know what? I'm an important person. I feel like that should be taken into consideration. I'm just saying. You know? I care about uniforms more than most people.
I like
saying.
uniforms, and I've been to some games. I'm a valued customer.
alrighty, that's all we have time for today. Make sure to keep up with our coverage at www.nightsportsnow.com, and we'll see you next week.
Follow me on Twitter.
Bye.